Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a video review for another new television series which just premiered last night, January 12th, 2014, and that is of HBO's original True Detective. Right, so since there's no Walking Dead on back until February 9th, the air date, decided I would check out some new shows, and out of the new ones I've been checking out, this was one that I kind of heard about, saw some commercials on YouTube for, and really wanted to check out. Once I heard that it was an HBO series, so you're going to be getting, a really high quality show with a better budget than most, series on TV get. In addition to that, you're not going to be limited by in terms of a network not wanting to go to a certain amount. HBO, for example, will have shows with things like this where you'll see brutal crime scenes or any kind of adult material, nudity or anything of the sort that, you would have to have in certain kinds of situations. HBO doesn't shy away from. They're able to go ahead and show basically everything that you would have to see to make it feel real. This one is kind of one of those that it's well suited for it because it's a really dark series following two detectives. The first one is named Rusty, that is played by Matthew McConaughey, and the second one is Martin, played by Woody Harrelson. So again, HBO series, good budget, great story, and you have some great actors here. Most television series, they don't get it, movie actors like Woody Harrelson or Matthew McConaughey. Both amazing actors, both well established, don't even need to do TV shows because for most of the time they're going to be working on, movies for the most part, and we're used to seeing them in those kinds of roles on the big screen versus on, TV show, for example. So right away when I heard that those two were going to be in it and that it was going to be on HBO, it was like, oh man, I got to check this one out because I do like detective type stories, movies, shows, things like this. But definitely with this one, the driving interest for me anyway was that you have both of them on an HBO series. If I had to compare this to a movie in terms of what I've seen, the closest I can think of would be maybe something like Seven, for example. If you guys have seen Seven, it's one of the best movies probably ever. And in that you have Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman that are detectives. It's got some similarities to that, and it's got the same kind of feel, I want to say, but it's at a lot slower pace because it's a television series and there's going to be a lot of episodes for it. Each episode, of course, will be 60 minutes because it's on HBO, so they don't count for commercials and all that. So that's nice to see. And from based on the first episode, I won't get into any spoilers or anything like that, but it seems like it's going to be kind of a slow burner. There's a murder that's committed in a very bizarre fashion. The two detectives, Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, they're investigating. They're the two on the case, and they're trying to figure out exactly what happened, who did it, all this kind of stuff. At the same time, we have two different time intervals going through in the show. We'll skip between back and forth. We have one where they're kind of there's another murder that's been committed. I think it's 15 years later. They said something like that. And basically, you have new detectives that are interviewing them to hear what their thoughts were and all the information they can on the first murder that happened a while ago. So you have those two storylines of the first murder, them investigating that, talking to people, and learning about what happened exactly and who did it, so that they can try to find out who it was who committed the crime, the criminal. And then you have the other storyline, which is in the future, 15 years later or so, of new detectives asking them information so they can try to find the person who's committed the new murder. And there are similarities between the murders in terms of the aesthetics and sort of like a ritualistic type of murder in terms of what happened. The murderer put antlers on the victim, and just did some really strange things in terms of setting it up like some kind of theatrical scene where these little stick things that are put together, almost like a dream catcher, but they call it devil catchers or something like that in Louisiana where they're at. And there's these placed around the person. There's some just different designs and different things that the murderer put into the killing, into the scene, so that when the two detectives find it, they can kind of go through it and kind of analyze it and things like that, so that it is kind of different from just your average regular type thing, which sort of made me think of Seven in some ways, although it doesn't fit with any kind of like methodical thing like Seven does, where there's the seven deadly sins. There's going to be seven murders like that. This one is more vague than that. There's no indication right away in the first episode of exactly why the person committed the murder in this way. And it's interesting to hear the different detectives' take on it. You have Matthew McConaughey's character, Rust, who he basically is extremely intelligent. He's a very interesting character because he doesn't have a family of his own. His wife they're divorced. He had a daughter that passed, and basically he's an intellectual. He's also a nihilist in certain ways. Now, what a nihilist is, if you guys aren't familiar, he doesn't believe in any religion or anything of the sort, and at the same time, he is pessimistic in terms of his outlook on life. So he doesn't feel like human beings have a purpose or anything like that, and he has a very pessimistic view overall of the world and of humanity. Which I guess if you were a detective, seeing murder scenes all the time, crime scenes all the time, and investigating them, you may develop this kind of, I want to say ideology, but worldview, zeitgeist, so to speak, on humanity. So he's a really, really interesting character, and the more we sort of learn about him, the more intrigued I am as a viewer to hear more about him. Very interesting. Now, on the flip side, you have Woody Harrelson's character, Martin, who is more like your sort of atypical family man, good guy cop. He's got a couple of daughters, got a wife, got a nice house, all these types of things. Your everyman, so to speak. And he plays really well off of Matthew McConaughey's character because they have such conflicting views. Him, for example, he's just like your atypical in Louisiana, Christian type guy. Family man, and then you've got the opposite there, who's kind of an atheist in a lot of ways, and also a pessimist in terms of his worldview, and how those two kind of, the dialogue between them, how that goes, and everything. It's very interesting to see. Let's see. So it's a slow burner. It's got some great visuals. It looks amazing. The intro is awesome. Looks really, really cool, almost like David Fincher type, Seven type thing. Almost as cool. I don't want to say as, because David Fincher's intros and stuff is really far, like way out there and really, really cool. But something similar to that, close to it, just not as dark, a little lighter than that. And it's a pretty honest show, at least based on the premiere and what I've seen. It's very honest to kind of get that point of view from a couple detectives, partners that are investigating this kind of thing, and how they have to talk to so many different people and all the different things that are involved with it. But because it's a TV series in this type of fashion, it is a slow burner, meaning it's not an hour and a half and boom, they've caught the person and it's over. The story's done. It's going to be way more drawn out than that. I'm sure there's lots of interesting things that are going to happen. And from what I've heard, the first season will feature them, and then if the show gets renewed, there may be different characters in the second season or new. They switch it up, sort of like American Horror Story, like new detectives, new things happening, this kind of thing. But from what I've seen so far, it's a really well done show. It's really high quality. It's written very well from what I've seen. The characters are very interesting, and the direction is great, I think. In terms of a rating, because I did have high hopes for it. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think it's a good show. Definitely if you're one that likes detective type shows and people investigating things like that. If you like Seven and these types of movies and things like that, and you're looking for a TV series to pick up, this is definitely one I think you would enjoy. If you don't like those, if you're not interested in them trying to track down somebody and sort of that getting a sort of like a picture of what true detectives' lives are actually like. If you're not interested in that, I don't think you'll like it. It doesn't have all that much action. Most of it is reactive after the murders happened. They're investigating, they're looking at the scene, they're trying to understand, and it's reactive in that way. So it's not your high flying type action type show. So it depends on what you like and what your tastes are. For me, I think it's a very smart show, and I think it's very interesting. The characters especially, definitely Rusty or Rust. He is a really, really interesting character, and I'm going to definitely check it out next week to see where they go with him, what the direction is, and is he just a detective? Is there something more? The new detectives that are questioning him are almost kind of insinuating that maybe he had something to do with the murders because he's so out there and kind of into this kind of thing, that maybe he was the one that committed it, or who knows. A lot of promise for one episode. After watching one episode, a slow burner, but a lot of overall interest from me as a viewer. A lot of interest for these characters and to see where the show is going to go. So definitely a cool one. If you like these kind of shows, definitely check it out. And that's pretty much all I got to say about the premiere of True Detectives. It was great. Really, really great. And I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev, and I'm saying peace.